It is 7:31, and it is a political cartoon that has gotten a lot of backlash. The Illinois Policy Institute taking some heat from politicians who say this drawing is racist. The editorial also causing controversy in Governor Rauner's office, leading to a staff shakeup. But the Institute says politicians are just trying to silence a group shedding light on a very important subject.
So joining us now to talk about it, Ted Dabrowski, the Vice President of Policy at the Illinois Policy Institute. Ted, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And explain the cartoon to us, what it was hopefully, in your mind, depicting.
Yeah, this cartoon shows a black child who is from CPS, and what's happening is that school money is being siphoned away to economic development zones called TIFs, and it's taking hundreds of millions of dollars from these kids and going to Rahm Emanuel into a slush fund that's given to developers, rich developers. And we're calling out that practice. We should not have the public schools losing out on hundreds of millions of dollars to go to a slush fund.
So people saw this cartoon and they said that the cartoon itself was racist and you shouldn't have done it. Is that what? Did you get feedback from some of your followers or your viewers? Or
that's what the political elite wanted to push back against that. They found it as a way to create divide and hate. But the reality is that 85% of kids at Chicago public schools are black or brown. And when you have hundreds of millions of dollars being siphoned away every year into rich developers' hands, that's the racist policy, and that's the one that should be called out. We're here to fight for the kids and defend those kids and say that it's time to end TIFs.
Now, it got a little more complicated, obviously, when there was some backlash, and then the communications team for the governor released a statement saying, in part, the governor couldn't comment because he's a white male. That didn't go over well. The governor ended up letting go 4 staff members, and this has all led to a big controversy. What do you make of all that?
Well, you know, there's a lot of distraction away from the real issues. You know, these legislators have made a mess of education funding. Many of them support TIFs. They support the fact that this money is being taken away from kids. They don't want to discuss the real issues, and a lot of them are ignoring the difficulties minorities are having in Chicago. So they'd rather have a political battle and hit Rauner and others than actually take on the real issues, and that's you know, a lot of minorities are struggling.
It really is a struggle. As a reporter, talking to a lot of people in the community, I hear from a lot of them, they cannot understand how there is no money for schools, there is no money for some of the things that are needed in their communities, and then they see these huge projects going up with the TIF funds, and they say, who's in charge of this? Well, the mayor is in charge of this fund. It's kind of like his own little pocket money a little bit.
It's fascinating. He gets $500 million a year in that slush fund outside of the normal budget process to hand out to developers, and that, you know, anybody who knows corruption in Chicago knows that that's not a good thing.
So what do you think is about, excuse me, what do you think is a better way to handle delving out that money, that it's fair, so it's fair, and not just up to Rahm Emanuel, the mayor, to decide who...
let it go through the normal budget process. That means the Chicago public schools would have $250 million a year more each year. And that's what we're talking about, minority kids who watch that money be siphoned away. It's the only fair thing is to end TIFs, and the legislators who are you know, lashing out against the cartoon should instead be lashing out against TIFs.
All right, 10 seconds. So how would you characterize the relationship right now between the Illinois Policy Institute and the governor?
Look, we're fighting for many of the same policies he fights for, and as long as we're in agreement, we'll be working together. And there's policies where we disagree, and we'll disagree.
Ted, thanks. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time to talk weather right now. Mike Kaplan in the Weather Center.